What if your unhappiness isn't caused by life at all, but by the thoughts you repeat every single day? You may think it's the job, the money, the relationship, the body, but underneath it all, there is one force that shapes every experience: the voice inside your head. And if that voice is filled with fear, doubt, and self-criticism, then even the brightest moments feel dark. Be honest with yourself. How many mornings have you woken up already tired, not because your body failed you, but because your mind began attacking you before your feet even touched the floor? How many nights have you lain awake, replaying mistakes, whispering silently, "I'm not enough"? These thoughts don't just hurt your feelings, they carve deep pathways in your brain. The more you repeat them, the stronger they grow, until unhappiness feels like your default setting. But here's the truth that Zen masters have known for centuries. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. Your brain is not fixed. It bends, it rewires, it reshapes itself according to the thoughts you nurture. A single compassionate thought is like planting a seed of light in a dark forest. Nurture it, and slowly the forest begins to glow. You are not broken. You are simply repeating stories that keep you trapped in unhappiness. And the miracle is this: when you change the story, you change the brain. When you change the brain, you change your life. Happiness isn't a miracle waiting outside. It's the architecture you build inside. By the end of this journey, you will see how small, intentional shifts in your thought patterns can physically rewire your brain and open the door to lasting happiness. Not fleeting joy, not quick fixes, but a deep transformation that no one can take away. So let's begin with the truth your body has been waiting to reveal. 1. The body is the echo of thought. Your body listens to every thought you think, not just the uplifting ones, but also the sharp ones you hurl at yourself in the silence of your own mind. The words you never speak aloud are the ones your body hears most clearly. If you repeat, "I'm tired, I'm broken, I can't do this," your body obeys like a loyal servant. Fatigue deepens, muscles tighten, the chest grows heavy. But when the mind whispers gentleness, "I am safe, I am healing, I am here," the body relaxes, the heart steadies, and something soft awakens. Zen masters often teach that the body is nothing more than the mind made visible. Every thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of flesh and bone. Paint in anger, and the colors bleed into tension, ulcers, and headaches. Paint in compassion, and the body glows with a lighter hue. The truth is brutal but liberating. Your suffering may not be only in your body, it may be an echo of the stories you keep telling yourself. There is an old tale of a monk who fell ill with fevers that left him bedridden for weeks. Instead of fighting the sickness with anger, he sat with his thoughts. Day by day, he noticed how much bitterness he had carried: resentment toward his teacher, regret for lost years. With each breath, he replaced those thoughts with forgiveness and patience. The fever eventually lifted. When asked what cured him, he smiled. The medicine was not in herbs alone. It was in the thoughts I learned to release. Think about your own life. Have you ever noticed how anxiety makes your heart race, your palms sweat, your breath shallow, as if your very body believes the fear? Or how a single kind thought toward yourself, "I am allowed to rest," melts the heaviness in your shoulders? These are not coincidences. They are proof. The body does not argue with the mind, it mirrors it. One student once asked a Zen master, "Why does my body hurt even when I have done nothing wrong?" The master replied, because you have been carrying your mind like a sack of stones. The body was not betraying him, it was reflecting him. His back ached from unspoken anger. His stomach churned with unacknowledged fear. His head throbbed with the noise of constant self-judgment. We often treat the body as a machine that breaks down randomly. But the body's not random. It is responsive. Worry long enough, and the stomach knots. Hold on to rage, and the liver tightens. Swallow grief, and the chest collapses inward. These are not just medical diagnoses. They are the language of the body trying to speak the mind's truth. And yet there is hope in this truth. If the body can echo harmful thoughts, it can also echo healing ones. Replace "I am weak" with "I am finding strength," and your breath deepens. Replace "I am broken" with "I am learning balance," and your posture shifts. Thought becomes energy, energy becomes chemistry, chemistry becomes sensation. Healing begins not by silencing the body, but by listening to it. A monk once compared it to a bell. Strike the bell harshly, and it vibrates with a sharp, painful sound. Touch it gently, and it sings in harmony. Your thoughts are the hand. Your body is the bell. The sound you live in depends on how you choose to touch it. So the next time your body aches, before rushing to see it as broken, ask yourself, what thought is echoing here? What story am I still carrying? Pain may not always vanish, but its weight shifts when it is understood. And when the body feels heard, it begins to heal. Your body is not your enemy. It is your most honest companion, repeating back to you the voice you feed it. Every ache is an echo. Every symptom is a message. The question is, are you listening? But if the body mirrors thought, then the mind itself must be where true change begins. 2. The thought trick, planting seeds of happiness. A single thought can be poison or medicine. One sentence repeated in your mind can drain the strength from your body, dim the light in your eyes, and convince you that you are trapped. And one different sentence, gentle, compassionate, steady, can turn the tide, ease your breath, and begin a healing that no pill could start. Thoughts are never neutral. They carry the weight of seeds. What you plant, you will harvest. Zen masters have long compared the mind to a field. Plant weeds of anger, resentment, and despair, and soon the field is overrun with thorns that cut you every time you walk through it. Plant seeds of compassion, patience, and forgiveness, and though it may take time, blossoms eventually appear. You may not control the weather of life, but you always control what you plant. There is a story of a monk tormented by chronic pain in his body. Each step was heavy, each night restless. Yet instead of surrendering to despair, he chose to repeat a single phrase, "May I be at peace, may my body find rest." At first, nothing changed. The pain continued, but it did not stop. Day after day, with every breath, he planted that same seed. Weeks later, the pain softened. Not gone, but no longer the master of his life. He had learned that when you tend to the soil of your mind with compassion, the body begins to echo the change. Modern science quietly agrees with this ancient truth. The brain is not a stone wall fixed forever. It is a river that reshapes itself each time water flows. Repeated thoughts carve new pathways, just like a stream wears a channel into the earth. When you rehearse self-hatred, "I'm broken, I'm hopeless, I'm nothing," the channel deepens and misery flows faster. But when you begin to repeat gentler truths, "I am learning, I am returning to balance, I am worthy of rest," the water shifts course, new channels form. Over time, the river of thought finds a new way forward. Think of it this way. Every thought you repeat is like laying down a brick. Day after day, brick after brick, you are building a house in which your soul will live. Will you build walls of despair that keep the light out? Or windows of kindness that let the sun in? The choice is always yours, though it often doesn't feel like it. The tragedy is that most people never realize the power of their inner voice. They treat their thoughts as random guests barging into the house, never realizing they themselves are the architect. They let the cruel voices of the past, parents, teachers, old failures, set up camp in their minds. And then they wonder why they cannot feel free. But freedom begins with this realization. You can choose. Every time a thought arises, you are not forced to believe it. You can notice it, name it, and then plant another in its place. The first one may shout, "I am weak," but you can whisper back, "My body is learning to restore itself." The first one may hiss, "I am broken," but you can counter, "I am returning to balance." Do not underestimate the whisper. Even a small seed can crack stone if it is watered daily. Your gentle thought does not need to be loud to be strong. It only needs to be repeated. Slowly, steadily, the old pathways weaken and the new ones grow stronger. What begins as a fragile seed becomes the tree you rest beneath. One Zen master compared it to chanting. When monks repeat words of compassion in the meditation hall, they are not begging the universe for mercy. They are carving those words into their own hearts. The repetition is the practice. Over time, their minds begin to carry the chant even in silence, and their bodies respond with calm. You too are chanting all day long. The only question is, what are you chanting? Your thoughts can poison you, but they can also be medicine. And like all medicine, they must be taken regularly, not just once in desperation. Imagine what would happen if, instead of repeating your wounds, you repeated your healing. Instead of rehearsing your failures, you rehearse your resilience. You are not broken, you are a gardener, and the garden of your mind is waiting. But thoughts alone need a deeper soil to grow in, and that soil is stillness. 3. Stillness, where the brain heals itself. Silence is the brain's reset button. Yet for most of us, silence feels terrifying. We fill our days with noise, scrolling through endless feeds, switching on the TV for background sound, keeping busy just to avoid hearing the quiet. But Zen masters knew what we have forgotten. Silence is not emptiness, it is medicine. There is a story of a hermit who once lived deep in the mountains. He had been plagued by restlessness and anxiety that no prayer seemed to ease. Instead of running from it, he sat still each morning, watching the mist lift from the valley. At first, the silence roared louder than any storm. His mind screamed, replaying every regret, every fear. But he stayed. Day after day, he returned to that stillness. Slowly, something began to shift. The thoughts softened, his breath deepened. The weight he had carried for decades dissolved, not because he fought it, but because he allowed the silence to heal him. Years later, when people visited him, they said his presence felt like a calm river. You could rest simply by sitting near him. Why is this so powerful? Because the brain, like the body, needs rest to repair itself. Constant thinking is like running an engine without pause. It overheats, burns out, and collapses. Stillness is the cool night that lets the engine settle. It is in these pauses that the brain reorganizes, integrates, and restores balance. What noise scatters, silence gathers. Imagine a lake on a stormy day. The water churns, waves crash, and mud swirls until nothing is visible beneath the surface. That is the mind when it is restless, constantly stirred by thoughts. But when the winds die down and the water grows still, Suddenly, the bottom becomes clear. You can see stones, plants, and even fish moving gracefully in the depths. Stillness does not create clarity. It reveals the clarity that was always there, hidden by noise. This is why monks throughout history devoted hours to sitting in silence. They were not escaping life. They were returning to it. In silence, the brain and the heart realign. The nervous system finds its natural rhythm, and with that rhythm comes a strength deeper than any distraction can provide. One master said, "When the mind is silent, the whole universe surrenders its secrets." He did not mean that silence gives you new information, but that silence reveals what you already knew but had drowned out. That you are whole, that you are safe, that peace is never outside but within. Think of how many of your worst decisions were made in noise, in panic, in overthinking, in rushing. And think of the rare times you paused, breathed, and waited. How often did the answer rise naturally when you finally allowed the noise to fade? That is not a coincidence. That is the power of stillness, restoring the mind to its original clarity. Silence is not escape, it is medicine. It resets the brain, lowers the inner storms, and prepares you to meet life with steadiness rather than chaos. In stillness, the body heals, the mind rebalances, and the heart remembers what joy feels like. And when stillness clears the noise, something miraculous rises: gratitude. 4. Gratitude, the mind's natural medicine. Gratitude doesn't just feel good, it rewires your brain for joy. You've probably heard people say, "Be grateful," as if it's a polite gesture, something you do before a meal or on holidays. But gratitude in Zen is not politeness. It is a transformation. It is the power to take a life that feels broken and reveal the wholeness that was always hidden underneath. Zen wisdom teaches, gratitude turns lack into fullness. A person with endless possessions but no gratitude will always feel poor. A person with almost nothing but a grateful heart can walk through life radiant with joy. This is why monks who own no property, wear simple robes, and eat from a single bowl are often the ones who smile the deepest smiles. They do not see a bowl of rice as just rice. They see it as sunlight, rain, farmers' labor, earth's generosity, all arriving in their hands in one humble meal. There is a story of a Zen monk who, each morning, would lift his bowl of rice and laugh. "The whole universe is in here," he said. To him, it was not empty starch, but a miracle that countless unseen forces had woven together for his nourishment. That laughter was gratitude, and gratitude was joy. Now pause for a moment and reflect. How often do you overlook the miracles in your own life? The glass of water you drink without noticing, the breath that enters your lungs without asking permission, the friend who sends a message just when you feel most alone. Without gratitude, these moments vanish, forgotten. With gratitude, they become treasures. And here's the hidden truth. Gratitude doesn't just change how you see life, it changes the structure of your brain. The more you practice gratitude, the easier it becomes to see blessings instead of burdens. You create new pathways of attention. What was once invisible becomes luminous. Each time you say, "Thank you," and truly feel it, you carve a new groove in your mind, one that makes joy more natural tomorrow than it was today. But most people miss this. They believe joy will come only when something changes, when they earn more, heal fully, or escape their troubles. Yet joy is not waiting in the future. It is waiting in the present, unlocked by gratitude. Gratitude is not a reaction to happiness. It is the cause of it. There is a saying among Buddhist monks, "A grateful heart is a healed heart." Why? Because gratitude stops the endless chase for what is missing. It roots you where you are and reveals that right here you already have enough. Not everything you want, perhaps, but enough to breathe, enough to begin, enough to keep going. And that enough becomes a deep well of peace. Think of the people you've met who radiate warmth without owning much. Perhaps an elderly neighbor with very little income, yet always offering tea and kindness. Their secret is not wealth, not perfect health. It is gratitude. Gratitude makes their presence light, their laughter healing, and their life abundant, even in simplicity. Gratitude practiced daily becomes a habit of happiness. It reshapes the mind so that even in difficulty, you can find small sparks of light. The way rain cools the air, the way silence soothes after noise, the way tears cleanse a weary heart. These are not grand miracles, but they are the threads that weave resilience. Zen masters often bow before even the smallest things, a broom, a cup, a doorway, because they know that respect and gratitude are the roots of peace. And when you live this way, happiness is no longer fragile. It is no longer dependent on circumstances. It grows from within, steady and unshakable. Gratitude doesn't just soften the heart, it strengthens it. It rewires not only the brain, but the spirit, teaching you to see life through the eyes of abundance. And in that seeing, suffering loses its grip. But gratitude alone must be carried by something even more powerful, the energy you radiate. 5. Energy, happiness that spreads. Your happiness is not yours alone. It heals those around you. You might think your moods are private, locked away in your mind, invisible to others. However, the truth is that the energy you carry is contagious. It spills into rooms, ripples through conversations, and lingers in the hearts of the people closest to you. A single smile can lighten the weight of another's day. A single burst of anger can poison a home. What you radiate matters far more than you realize. There is a story of a Zen master whose students often came to him full of anxiety and restlessness. They would ask countless questions, seeking advice, desperate for answers. Yet sometimes the master gave no words at all. He simply sat in silence, his eyes soft, his posture steady, his presence calm. Within minutes, the students found themselves breathing easier. Their worries felt less heavy. The air itself seemed lighter. One disciple later wrote, "It was as if his very presence was medicine. Even without words, the storm in my mind grew quiet." This is the power of energy, the unseen medicine we offer to the world simply by the way we exist. Think about it. When you enter a room where someone is seething with anger, you feel it before they speak a word. The air feels sharp, your body tightens. You want to leave, but walk into a room where someone is laughing with joy and your chest loosens without effort. This is not imagination. Energy spreads like fragrance from a flower. You cannot see it, but you cannot deny its effect. Zen teachings compare human presence to incense. A stick of incense does not need to announce itself. The fragrance naturally fills the space. In the same way, a person filled with peace does not need to preach. They radiate. Others feel lighter simply by being near them. Your happiness is not a selfish pursuit. It is a gift, offered silently to everyone you encounter. Yet here lies the painful truth. If your energy is heavy with bitterness, self-hatred, or despair, that too spreads. Children absorb it. Partners carry it. Friends feel it in your silence. You may not intend harm, but energy communicates louder than words. This is why your healing is not only for you. It is for your family, your community, your world. When you begin to cultivate joy, you notice something astonishing. People around you shift too. A parent who practices patience finds their child calmer. A partner who chooses kindness discovers more warmth in return. A friend who radiates hope becomes a magnet for connection. Healing spreads outward, not by effort, but by presence. There is another story of a monk who once traveled through villages known for conflict. Wherever he went, arguments softened, tensions dissolved. When asked how he managed this miracle, he replied, "I carry no weapon but my heart. When my heart is at peace, peace appears around me." His lesson was simple. The energy you radiate shapes the ground you walk upon. So ask yourself, what are you radiating today? Is it fear, resentment, or impatience? Or is it calm, kindness, gratitude? You cannot control the storms of the world, but you can choose the fragrance you release. And that fragrance has the power to soothe hearts far beyond your own. Happiness, then, is not a selfish luxury. It is a responsibility. Every time you choose joy over bitterness, you heal not only yourself, but everyone who shares space with you. Every time you soften your words, you soften the world. Every time you breathe with peace, you remind others that it is possible. So what does this mean for your daily life? It means happiness is already within reach, closer than you think. Your thoughts are not harmless. They are the architects of your happiness. Every joy you feel, every burden you carry, every moment of peace or turmoil begins first as a whisper in the mind. That whisper becomes a story. The story becomes a pattern, and the pattern becomes the life you live. If you have been trapped in sadness, anxiety, or self-criticism, it is not because you are broken. It is because you've been repeating thoughts that build prisons instead of doors. But here is the truth that can change everything. You don't need a miracle. You don't need perfect circumstances. And you don't need pills to start healing. You carry the medicine already. Happiness begins not in some far-off future, but in your very next breath, your very next thought. The moment you decide to choose differently, to replace "I can't" with "I am learning" or "I'm broken" with "I'm returning to balance," your brain begins to change, your body begins to soften, your spirit begins to rise. So let me ask you, which new thought will you choose tonight? What story will you begin to whisper to yourself as you close your eyes? Share it below in the comments, not just for yourself, but so that others can draw strength from your choice. And if this message touched something deep inside you, I invite you to like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe so we can continue to walk this healing journey together. May your thoughts be gentle, your mind bright, and your days filled with the quiet joy of a rewired heart.